It was about an hour before the planetary military showed up, with minor police forces showing up in order to incarcerate the very unconscious soldiers that Delius had dealt with, as Delius himself returned to the confines of the facility through crowds of absolutely astonished faces. And for good reason. Delius's presence there had been kept classified above top secret. So, only the scientists that dealt with Delius directly and were directly involved in the scientific endeavor to understand his race had any knowledge of him being there. Everyone else simply thought they were working their regular job. But at this point, the secret was out. Delius and the conflict between him and the enemy forces that were attempting to invade the base was being broadcast across the entire world and all of the worlds beyond. The title of the broadcast being "The Gods of the Core Are Among Us." After asking Asa of what exactly that individual was yelling as he unloaded his gun, approaching Delius, Asa informed him that it was the primary statement that the military of that world had been using for some time. "We will not bow to false gods." But it wasn't much longer before somebody from the world military arrived, making his way through the destruction down to the confined areas below, where he found Delius, Asa, and several other scientists, currently running some various tests on Delius to ensure that he was physically okay, and try to measure any damages he might have received, and finding none, as he entered to find Delius sat in a chair with the scientists probing around him with various types of instruments. Hello, Delius. My name is Executive Bormon. I'm a military coordinator with the World Organization that oversees government and military action here on the planet," the man said as he approached. "First and foremost, I'd like to thank you for your efforts in stopping those military units and saving the lives of the people here in this facility. Our forces have been thin-stretched as of lately, trying to prevent full-scale military invasions has us spread far thinner than we'd like, so small units can still slip through the web, so to speak. However, you dealt with them quite brilliantly. It's clear the time you spent preparing yourself has not gone to waste. However, it's not all good news, at least not from a military standpoint. While you were able to defeat the units that were sent here, you're no longer a military secret. Images of your conflict have been broadcast worldwide. For some time, we've been withholding information of you from the interactions that we've had with your people. Since time passes much slower on the core, it's gone unnoticed as of yet. We've primarily simply been telling people that you're off away, on a hunting expedition of sorts. But now, people have gotten light of the truth. You're no longer on the core. You're here on our world. This has sparked a maelstrom, both politically and socially. We were hoping to simply send you right into conflict once you were ready and prepared. That way we could maximize your presence, get the absolute most out of the surprise of having you here and siding with us, fulfill some sort of major objective that we would be unable to achieve otherwise. But since the secret's out, that's going to be much more difficult. You may be next to invincible, However, there's still a lot of space between us and the enemy. And as strong as you are, we're uncertain of whether you could survive the rigors of space. If you're on board a ship that gets blasted to smithereens out in spaceflight, we're not sure that you being strong or durable would matter much if there's no oxygen for you to breathe. And it would be an absolute waste to have one of the most powerful assets at our disposal simply die in the vacuum of space without achieving any goals. Besides, we did promise you a return trip home, so we'd like to avoid that. Now, however, the new problem is, with your presence being a known factor, there's a never-ending swarm of government officials and interplanetary councils chomping at the bit to talk to you. For some time now, your world has been unable to participate in any sort of interplanetary discussions due to the drastic time differential between our worlds. But now, with you adjusted to our faster rate of time and clearly taking actions within it, the Interplanetary Council is demanding that you step forward as the representative for the core. They've called for another interplanetary meeting, and they expect you to be there to speak on behalf of the people of Hagara. Wait a second. I'm a warrior. I don't really know anything about politics, Delia said, trying to wave off one of the scientists scanning him over. Yes, the military individual said, removing his hat for the moment being. We informed them of this. However, they're still quite insistent, especially after hearing the lengths that we would have to go through in order to acquire another one of your race, and how long it would take for them to adapt to our faster rate of time flow, as there's not much time before major conflict most likely erupts. It's now seen as a matter of urgency, so whether you're a diplomat or not, they want you there. Now, communicating with us hasn't been that much of a problem, because believe it or not, your native language is taught in many places, with countless people hoping to be involved with communicating with members of your race. We even made it a standard as of recently for hiring people on at certain facilities. However, there are countless individuals who do not speak your native language. Normally, language isn't that much of a barrier. We simply affix you with a translation unit. However, as we discovered early on, translation units don't function with you. It's a mixture of the temporal alignment of your brain, as well as the intense radioactive energy that you put off. These things disturb the translation unit, making it impossible for it to function. So, you can't understand their language unless you just outright learn their language, which we, of course, don't have time for. So it's been decided that when you attend the meeting, Miss Asa will act as your official translator for the event, and all the other ambassadors that will be attending the official summit will have official translators of their own, individuals that speak your native language, who will be translating for their respective ambassadors. As we have not yet encoded your language into popular translation units, the newest model is set to come out a few months from now, but as communication with your planet is difficult, there's been no reason to include it in mass translation production. We honestly were hoping to put an end to this war, with you as our ally, to strike a major blow, one that they couldn't fight back against. Our primary hope was to zero the location of this doomsday device that they are constructing in order to kill Hagara. and take a large-scale military assault force in order to try to destroy the device. But as we are yet to zero its location, that's not going to be possible. Before, if we had simply found it, all that would be required for victory is getting you on board it. Once you are actually on board the Doomsday device, you could rip every facet of it apart with your bare hands, and there wouldn't be a single military asset they had at their disposal capable of stopping you. They would have to destroy it completely, sending them back decades of research and development, and countless trillions of investment dollars. It would be a major victory for us, in any facet you can think of, waylaying all of their military assets and activities. But I suppose this ambassadorial meeting could have advantages of its own. This might be an opportunity for us to demonstrate power. They don't know the extents that we've had to go through in order to adjust you to our frame rate of time. So, if we withhold that information, then we might be able to convince them that we've got an army of individuals just like you, just ready to float into combat. It would be perfect. With multiple individuals from the core, this would massively increase our military strength and make the enemy think twice about their little plans. It was easy to talk about attacking you before, when you were unable to make any actions or movements of your own, or defend yourself in any way, simply trapped on the planet. But if that were no longer the case, it would suddenly drastically change the scales of power in this system. In fact, we might be able to get them to decommission the destruction device right there and then. I'm sorry, but that isn't going to happen, Delius replied. What? The military individual said, sounding somewhat shocked. Dishonesty is against my people's belief. We do not believe in deceiving others, under any circumstances. Truth is part of nature. Nature is part of the cycle. Deception inhibits the natural flow of the cycle and all things in it. So, I will not be lying, under any circumstances. I do not care what advantages it might lean you. Delius, you have to understand the severity of the situation. I understand full well, Delius replied. I will not be lying, he said, a very serious expression on his face. For a moment, the military individual seemed quite deterred, upset that Delius refused to go along with their plan, after which he simply sighed for a moment. Fine, I suppose we can't force you if you don't wish to. We'll try to come up with a reasonable stratagem for how to deal with the situation. The summit will be held in 2 months. Until then, we'll see if we can have you moved to a different facility, one with much more security, the military individual said, as he turned around and began to make his way out of the room.